I'm in the wrong user. That's my YouTube Gmail address. Let's close that. Oh, it's right here. Okay. I have 5 Gmail addresses that I use for different purposes. That D is just for YouTube. I only post my YouTube stuff. For example, current price per share of NVIDIA is $115.50. But if I look at the market cap, it should be somewhere here. Where art thou? Right there. $2.834 trillion. That's the value attaches, market attaches to the NVIDIA as a company. Now, let's think about what that PE means. Remember, with all financial ratios, we think about what it means. How can I interpret it? The way to interpret PE, and by the way, these earnings always refer to a 12-month period. You can't simply take current price and divide it by the earnings per share of the last quarter. You could, as long as you let people know that that is a quarterly number. One of the problems with the calculating something like PE using quarterly earnings, companies have seasonality to their earnings. Example, Apple. Apple has a, let's look at it. Let's do quarterly, or actually, let's do annual. The end of fiscal year for Apple is actually end of September. Okay. So if I calculate the first quarter, which is the fourth calendar quarter, typically Apple has, and let's look at the numbers. Let's just look at the revenue. Okay. At the end of 2023, they had a revenue of 120 billion. The last 3 months of 2023, the first 3 months of 24, it goes down to 90, then 85. Does that mean Apple is doing pretty bad? No. There is a seasonality to Apple sales. Uh, when does Apple come up with their new product announcements? Typically end of September. Why? For a lot of different reasons that I could not personally comprehend. People spend money around Christmas season, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you believe in. Okay, the holidays, as the woke term is. To me, if you're Christian, it's a Christmas. If you're Jewish, it's a Hanukkah. If you're atheist, it's somebody else's holiday. You know, my kids are kind of atheists, but they always love Christmas because they get presents. Most of their sales, proportional speaking, happens in that last quarter. So if I calculate the PE ratio based on uh, quarter one numbers for Apple, that number is going to be much lower. Price is the same, earnings are higher compared to something like in June. Okay, or I don't have it here, but end of September number as well. But typically, you always have the number called trailing 12 months. That's what TTM means. Always use annual numbers. If for nothing, that's the convention in markets, and you don't want to worry about the seasonality issues. Okay. Now, interpretation. Assuming, and that's a big assumption, EPS is to remain at its current level ad infinitum, which means to infinity and beyond in Latin. PE ratio tells you how long you estimate that it would take you to recover your investment into the company shares at the current price. When we go to chapter, when we start chapter 8, we're going to start a concept called payback ratio, payback period. PE ratio is kind of a payback period under a very specific assumption. So, for example, let's look at Netflix current, what I'm going to call trailing PE, which means EPS used is the EPS for the trailing 12 months. Let me get the page for Netflix. In financeyahoo.com, you could see it under statistics. I mean, uh, currently Netflix is trading around $700 a share, but that price is about 44 times the earnings per share in the trailing 12 months. We can also look at current market cap. Uh, 300.84. So a market that attaches almost 301 billion value to Netflix. Earnings for TTM, short for trailing 12 months. Let's look at financials. Quarterly. Their net income is, where are they? Oh, net income from continuing. Come on. Net income 7.094. So based on that, PE would be 300 84 divided by 7.094. They're not exactly the same numbers because more than likely the share numbers are different a little bit. When you're doing this for a living, under statistics, you can find the current number of shares, shares outstanding. But the trouble is, the share numbers when the earnings were announced may be different. So when it comes to trailing PE, always go for that published number or use appropriately adjusted ones. But going back to that number, whether it's 42 or 44, it basically says if you could assume that earnings are going to remain at their current 12-month levels, about $7.1 billion a year, assuming number of shares are not going to change, it's going to take you 42 or 44 years to pay for your initial investment in terms of earnings. That's a long time. And this doesn't even think about time value of the money. It's just pure payback. If you did a present value adjusted one, that's going to be even longer. Or you could say on a present value basis, it's going to remain the same. Either way, it's like how long it's going to take your investment to pay itself back. But that assumption that it's going to remain the same, obviously, it's only a thought experiment. And in practice, that is almost never true.